Hey everybody, I'm Dr. Christy Taylor, and I want to welcome you to this special episode of Ask a Career Coach. I have had several questions coming into me, and I wanted to just take this as an opportunity to just provide you with some reassurance, like, hey, you got this, you can do this. And so with the questions coming into my inbox, I'm going to just take a moment to answer these questions. And maybe if you're listening in, this is an opportunity for you also as well to just maybe you can take something away from this process. So again, I'm Dr. Christy Taylor. I'm a career and executive coach, founder of Work Solutions LLC. And here at Work Solutions, we like to say, hey, we are the prescription for change. We are the change maker champion. We support you in your career. We do work around workplace resiliency. And so we're going to keep pushing this needle forward. So hi, Dr. Taylor. My name is Marcus. I was recently furloughed from my job in HR. And it feels like, I think I have about 5 or 6 questions that came in. So I'm just going to start with the one that was sent to me by Marcus. And then we're just going to go from there. Okay. So hi, Dr. Taylor. My name is Marcus. I was recently furloughed from my job in HR. And it feels like my career is on pause with DEI roles disappearing. In many companies, I'm feeling discouraged about my future in this field. What should I do? Okay. So the first thing that I always tell you is that, right, when you're working for a company, whether it's the government, military, whatever their policies are, right, you have to align yourself with that. In terms of the work that you do in your private business, that's going to be different. So if you do consulting in private business or speaking, then you can continue that. You should be able to continue that work forward. So now you're in a space where maybe you lost your job as a result of transitions or policy changes, and so you can either go out and look for an opportunity, because not every organization no longer does DEI work. So you can go out and look for opportunities. You can start doing consulting, or you go into an organization. If it's just not, maybe you have crossover skills and you go into an organization, and maybe if that's not a part of their policies, you just focus on keeping it professional and doing the work in alignment with whatever their policies are, as long as it's not like impacting your personal value. So again, I want to acknowledge that this can be really a tough situation, and being furloughed, especially when it feels like your entire industry is shifting, it can be unsettling. And like I just mentioned, there are going to be many companies that are pushing away and doing away with DEI roles and a lot of this has occurred in recent months. But that doesn't mean that your skills and your expertise, Marcus, that is not valuable, because the principles of diversity, equity, and inclusion, as well as accessibility, because people tend to forget that part, this is still critical to many companies. And even if they're being embedded in a different role, or maybe the title change in terms of how to approach that, just remember that you still have a skill set of fostering dynamic conversations, problem solving, building teams, connecting with people. So those are all crossover skills that even if you were to move into something like a coaching or facilitator role that's not directly related to that particular title, you still have a skill set that can be introduced. Thanks, Dorothy, for tuning in today. Please feel free to go ahead and throw your question in the chat. I'm happy to answer to the best of my ability if I know. The final thing I'm just going to tell you, Mark, is that, again, so this could be an opportunity to reposition yourself, consider expanding the scope. Remember that DEI, I wrote a book called Introduction to the REBT DEI Framework, where the book doesn't necessarily discuss racial or gender inequities. It really just focuses on the principles of DEI and rational motor behavior therapy, and how to leverage that to drive workplace change. And even as somebody who does this work, I have to consider, like, how do I continue to move this discussion forward? But I put my life in different buckets. And so, again, you may find yourself in that same space, right, where you're having to put life in different buckets. But think about all those transferable skills that you have, and how can you use this to continue doing the work that you're doing? Use this time that you're furloughed to strengthen your network on LinkedIn, connect with professionals in adjacent roles, and upskill in areas like change management and leadership coaching. Again, look at where those crossover skills are, because you're not out of the game. You're just at a point of transition. This is just a career pivot. If you are following me on LinkedIn, Marcus, I recommend that you check out a mini episode podcast called What to Do When You're Furloughed. You should be, as somebody who's furloughed, you should be, again, looking at your finances, cutting your budget down to the bare minimum, looking at what you can have in savings, looking at opportunities to do, what can you do in terms of work immediately, and just leveraging your time. Now, the other piece is that, you should be identifying those skills, like I mentioned, that you can use to transfer and cross over. All right. So my next question is from Jasmine. Jasmine says that she's been with her company for 6 years. She consistently delivered results, but she keeps getting passed over for promotion. She's frustrated. She doesn't know what to do. And she wants to know, how can she break this cycle of getting passed over? Well, one, Jasmine, it's really important that you're working in an environment where you feel appreciated, right? And one of the things I would encourage you to do up front, if you're continuously getting passed over, for opportunities, is to talk directly with your supervisor and solicit and ask for feedback, right? That's one of the things that you can do immediately, because if you're getting passed over, then maybe it's a reason. But now, if you feel like that you are just being treated unfairly, that's a different ball game, and that's something that maybe you have a conversation with HR about. But again, my first piece of advice to you, Jasmine, is, I know you put in the work. I know it can be frustrating, but you got to have a strategy, and you cannot do this in emotion. So the first thing you want to do is you want to ask for feedback. Schedule a conversation with your manager, your mentor at your company, and ask what would have made you a stronger candidate for the next leadership opportunity. You might discover that there are gaps in your skills, visibility, and internal positioning. Now, one thing that I'm going to tell you is that if you know that you are projecting yourself to want to move to a next level leadership type of role, you should really be planning it months in advance. Like, you should be doing the work as if you're already working in that, because people have different ideologies on promoting people based on leadership, right? I believe in this person, if they're displaying the skill set, then they should be promoted into that next level role because they are displaying the ability to do it. Now, that's my style as a hiring manager. Some people promote based on potential, right? To me, if you are trying to position yourself for a next level leadership type role, then you should already be doing the work, displaying the attributes that are going to make you successful in that position. And so one thing that I encourage you to do, Jasmine, is to ask yourself that question, right? Have you been displaying the attributes? Because if you're getting you may have, but if you're getting the interviews, if they're open for interviews, but if it's a straight up, like this person was promoted into this role, ask yourself what you've been doing. And so if I know that 12 months or 24 months from now that I want to go into a next level leadership role, then 3 months from now, I'm asking for feedback. 6 months from now, I'm asking for feedback. I'm doing all of the things that I can to continue to learn and close those gaps that are positioning me for that next level role, so that I can compete and also demonstrate and have a record of demonstration that shows that I have this skill set. And I think that really goes into the second thing that I wanted to say to you, Jasmine, is that you got to make sure that your leadership sees your impact. And so it's not just a matter of, hey, I want to move into a next level position. It's that you're displaying that skill set, because sometimes great work happens behind the scene, but promotions often go to those who they advocate for themselves. So you got to speak up. You got to say, here's what I'm doing. A very simple thing that you can do in terms of documentation for yourself is I kind of still do, keep track of all the things that I'm doing. In the past, I have sent productivity reports to my supervisor, even if they didn't ask for them. I would just say, hey, here's a list of all the things that I did, throughout the month, because you need to be keeping tracking and advocating for yourself in the way that you do that, so that if you're going into those feedback sessions, even if they're not asking for it, hey, look, I just want to share with you, here's a list of things that I really was able to accomplish for the month. Do you have any feedback on how I continue to improve? Because you're kind of doing double documentation in that, right? You're sharing information with them. I'm going to finish this and then I'm going to jump in. I think that was your actual question, Dorothy, and I'm just going to ping it there. The last thing I want to tell you, Jasmine, if you're feeling looked over, you got to consider whether this company is truly invested in your growth, right? Because if you're consistently being overlooked despite taking the right steps, it might be time for you to explore new leadership opportunities elsewhere. But I want to tell you first to start with some level of self-reflection, okay? Are you doing the things that is taking you to get to the next steps? Because people think that when it comes to being promoted to a leadership position, it's going to just boom. They're going to notice my hard work and it's something, and I'm suddenly going to be promoted. That's not always true. You have to advocate for yourself. You have to make sure you're keeping the documentation and you asking for feedback and preparing yourself for a leadership position. If you know that 12 months from now that you want to move into a different position, you need to start yesterday asking them, okay, here's where I want to go in my career. What am I doing now? What types of projects can I take on? I've served as a mentor in my current job and even in the military. And one of the things that I often get from my mentees is that, I don't feel like I'm being challenged enough in my job. Well, let me tell you something. Leaders go look for opportunities to solve problems. So if you want to show leadership, when you identify a gap, you also come with a solution and possibilities. I'm in the military, so what they teach us, right, is that you should have 3 courses of actions. You should be able to consider the implications as well as the possibilities with those courses of action. If you're not the decision maker, you're able to present those to the decision maker based on the research that you've done. And that's you showing your value. So again, identify a problem and then you come with solutions and not with just, well, I don't know what I'm going to do or how we should approach this, right? Because leaders take charge and they lead, and you focus on closing deals. You come with solutions. You also know how to collaborate with a team. So I'm going to stop there with that, Jasmine. You can always schedule an appointment with me and we can talk through some of this stuff. But yeah, again, consider your contributions, consider asking for feedback. And if you're still not getting what you need, then you just need to consider moving on to somewhere where you're going to feel more appreciated and challenged. So Dorothy, you did ask me a question about remote work with foreign companies, specifically with regards to taxes. This is not my area of expertise, taxes, right? You said it will soon be much higher than working from a different state besides other towns. Yeah, you might want to get with somebody who has a background in accounting on that specifically. All right. That is not a question that I can answer for you with regards to tax, but I did want to make sure I acknowledge your question. Okay. So we asked Jasmine. Brian sent a question to me. Hey, Dr. Taylor, I wake up every morning. I'm sure that we have found ourselves in this position. You're waking up every morning and you feel stuck and you're working a job where you need a paycheck. How do I figure out my next move? Brian says, I feel stuck, but I need the paycheck. Brian, you are not alone. There are a bunch of people who feel stuck and they need the paycheck, right? Many people, they experience this at some point in their careers. That's okay, because the good news is that you have options. You have options. First, let's pinpoint what exactly makes you unhappy. Is it the job itself? Is it the work culture? Is it your manager? I have never been a coach who tells people to just jump and leave. You can see even in the feedback that I gave to Jasmine, I'm like, first examine yourself, ask for feedback, and then look at all your options if you want to move. And it's the same thing for you, Brian. Let's look at the reason why you're unhappy. Because is it your manager? Is it the lack of growth? Maybe you need to transfer to another area within the company or do a different opportunity. Do you feel like you're being challenged? You need to identify the real issue, and that's going to help you to determine, should you pivot to your next company or explore something entirely new? And so while you're still in this role, you need to start laying the groundwork for your next step. This is where a lot of people make the mistake about transition, right? And in some cases, we're in a position where we have to make a quick pivot. And I'm going to speak on that in just a moment. But if you know that you're in a job that you don't necessarily love, the good thing is that you still have a job, right? And you need to be focused on being strategic about figuring out what your next move is. So what are the things that you can learn from this current job? What are the things, the skill sets that you can build to have a transferable role? I mean, do they allow you to participate in projects? Do they provide professional development opportunities? You need to be taking advantage of and leveraging all of that. Quietly build up a resume and a skill set for yourself. Be researching the type of jobs that you want to transition to, and then strategically position yourself to make that move. I think a lot of times in this generation, we make a move out of emotion, but the truth is rent $2,000 or $3,000 sometimes. And you really got to be strategic about how you decide to make that next move. So leverage every job as an opportunity to build. When I first started my career in health science, one of the things that I did was I didn't have any work experience doing field work. I went out and did volunteer match. And I think I talk about that on one of the podcasts I got field experience, and that allowed me to easily transition into a role. You have to work the system, right? Because you don't control it, but you work the system. So remember that a job should be more than a paycheck, but you need to be strategic. If you're already in a position, I have never been a career coach who says you should just quit today. Don't do anything out of emotion. Make no moves out of emotion. Plan this process and then move strategically. Now, I'm going to address, if you're in this position where you've had to make a quick career move, right? You have to pivot. You don't have time to be stuck in your emotions. You have to pivot. So I just want to put that out there to you that right now, if you're in a position where you're listening in and you know that, hey, I'm going to possibly lose my job, I'm furloughed, look at the skill sets that you have and make the pivot now. Okay, make the pivot. You should be applying for jobs. And in that case, you might not have had an opportunity to be strategic in your approach because maybe you have to take care of your family. But maybe you can find you a transition role, or make sure you updating your resume and you're seeing what's out there and begin to match your skills, because it happens, right? It happens where people get laid off. They have to make sudden transitions. Okay, I think I have time for one or two more questions, and I might pop back on here tomorrow with some additional questions. I'll take this last question from. I'll go as long as I can until about 2:30. This question from Anita. Anita says that, I've been a registered nurse for 12 years, but I'm feeling the burnout from long shifts and high stress environments. I'm considering transitioning to healthcare administration. And Anita, this is right up my alley because, when I started Work Solutions, we really were focused on helping healthcare professionals, but she's asking here for advice. She don't know where to start. Well, again, it depends on the type of nursing that you've done. Keep in mind that you've done clinical documentation, right? So in some sense, you've done quality assurance, clinical documentation. You're used to using electronic health records. So start with all those things that you've done in a sense of clinical documentation, record reviews, patient education. All of that stuff is transferable, especially if you want to move into an administrative style environment. To some point as a nurse, you may have done compliance, right? So keep that in mind. So for your years of service and burnout in healthcare, people tend to get burnout. And burnout, it can be a real challenge, especially when you're doing those clinical roles. But who's to say that you moving into healthcare administration is going to change the burnout? Because there's a shortage overall of professionals in the healthcare field. One of the first things is, outside of the context of you identifying a new role, that I want to tell you is that you got to look at your own life and identify where you're going to draw the line in terms of seeking balance, right? Establish a clear line of boundaries in terms of how you're going to manage your life and what you want for your overall lifestyle. Once you identify, it's like, okay, here's exactly what I want out of my job. Talk to your boss to see, hey, can we change up my schedule? Can we get some balance here? And if that's not possible, then this is when you want to start considering your next move, because I believe that where you can, all job searches should be strategic. You want to do something. We have to go to work 8-10 hours a day. We're commuting hour and a half, like I commute an hour and a half. So all those things have to be taken into consideration when you're talking about doing a job that you love. Now that you have identified those things, then that's when you start your job search, because you got to know what it is that you want out of this next job. So you want to start by identifying the specific roles that interest you, and whether it's going to be case management, healthcare consultant, like I said, quality. You can even do some stuff in population health management. So once you have a target, so start with, again, setting a boundary for yourself about what it is that you want and where you want to go. Start with that and see if you can work that with the schedule you have, especially if you like the job you have. But if it's still too much and it's not feasible, then that's when you move over to the specific job search, the strategic job search, and focus on, okay, what are the boundaries that I want to have set, the quality of life that I want, what's the salary I want. Keep that in mind too. All right. But there are different things that you can do: healthcare consulting, case management, quality assurance, population health management. And once you get a target, you tailor your resume to highlight those leaderships. I have had many of clients that are doing bedside nursing that I have transitioned to telehealth or compliance. I mean, I have clients all the time, if you look at my feedback on my website, that I help to make these transitions. So also, the one thing I want to point out to you, because I'm gonna answer this set and then I'll pop back on tomorrow. You need to consider like additional certifications. Like people used to say, Dr. Taylor, you love a good certification. I sure do, because I get, if there's an opportunity available, I pad my resume. I'm in the middle of a career transition right now. Some of those very certifications that I've had over the years is what's my saving grace. So even as a career coach, right, we experience career transitions. And I think that that's even better in terms of me giving you advice, because that, like, hey, this is a real person having a real experiences as well. I might not say it live on the air exactly what that transition looks like, but we all go through it when we make these transitions. So you having things like maybe to boost up your resume is, okay, like I want to leave this job in 6 months. Maybe you go get certified as a case manager or a project manager, or take a certification test in an area that will allow you to transition, and then you tailor your resume to that. Be strategic if you have time. The last thing I'm going to tell you, Jasmine, is that you got to network, right? Networking is key. You need to connect with professionals that have already made this transition. Reach out to people on LinkedIn. Join professional organizations like American College of Healthcare Executives. ACHE is full of nurses. And those are people that you can connect with and get mentorship with, because they have already made the transition. Just do some research online as well. To the extent that you can, plan your transitions. But since I believe in staying ready so I don't have to get ready, you should be always pursuing a certification, something where you can beef up your resume and make the transition if you need to. And remember that you're not leaving healthcare, you're just evolving within the healthcare industry, right? And your clinical background and expertise, that is your unique perspective, gives you unique perspective, because that's invaluable to a non-clinical focused role. So it's just like with me teaching, right? I was always a practitioner first. I've done field work in health education. I do what was called applied research for my dissertation. And bringing that to the classroom as someone who has the experience doing that has really been helpful in how I engage with students. So I would tell you the same thing as you move into an administrative role, that clinical background and expertise is going to help you to have a broader perspective. All right. So I'm going to stop right here today, mainly because the battery is running down on the computer, but I'm going to stop right here. I'll hop back on later this week and do another Ask the Career Coach. I'm going to be doing, if you are following me on LinkedIn, we share tons of resources. Also, feel free to set up an appointment with me for a free consultation. And, I can give you some tips and tricks to help you. But if you look on my LinkedIn page, we have resources there. I have free resources as well as paid. And so we want to do whatever we can to help and support you. So I'll begin popping on, answering questions, some of these common questions that I get, as well as offering office hours for people to pop in and with their resume or pop in and ask me questions. So Godspeed. I will see you later on this week. But if you're tuning in and listening to this, check out our LinkedIn page or check out our website at Work Solutions, WORXKSolutions.com. Again, I'll see you later on this week. And thanks for tuning in to today's episode.